So BMW has come out and said that they are committed to internal combustion engines for at least 30 years. Now, here's the thing. Patrick shakes his head. I shook my head too. However, I
Facepalm.
read, yeah, and I read the article, and this unlike the other one, this is a very short article, and this is at uk.motor1.com. And as I read the article, what it sounded like is that BMW isn't necessarily saying screw batteries, screw electric vehicles, we hate them and we're not going to produce. Instead, what they said was they are working on electric vehicles, but they've publicly said that they predict it'll be about 30 years before electric vehicles have full penetration, which means they are still going to focus on making exciting and fun to drive internal combustion engines while also ramping up on electric vehicles. So that's their approach. And this is what I want to put forth to you guys. Is it that BMW is holding on internal combustion engines, or are they accurately predicting that it will be 2 to 3 decades before we see full penetration and saturation of electric vehicles? Are they just being honest?
I just want to say that in most of their territory, it will be illegal to sell a combustion engine before the 30 years are up on their home continent.
Okay, fair enough. You sure?
Well, there've been.
Oh yeah, they're on the
unless the government changes and they.
Unless the government changes.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a real dilemma. If you are a legacy car company that you have a lot of investment in this, battery research and development is not your expertise. It's expensive to switch over to that whole new disruptive model, and that's why I think a lot of the existing car companies are going to fail. This is a technology inflection point. That's when they're most vulnerable to this, and some of them are not going to make it.
They can't give up the profits. They can't give up the quarterly earnings
Exactly.
to do all the things they need to do to innovate out of this. They've got all these stranded assets, transmission plants, engine plants, parts plants that are all feeding the machine at a very cheap rate, which allows them to be profitable. In order to switch over to get to the new technology, they got to spend a ton of money, and they end up having to answer to the board, to the shareholders, and to everyone that's screaming at them that their quarterly profits have disappeared. And that is funny. Why it's really only the strong-willed will be able to make it through this. Others that try to do it partly, start on it, they're going to lose their jobs, or it's not going to be fast enough. So they're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't. You've got to rip the Band-Aid off quickly. You can't just peel it off slowly, and they're all trying to peel it off slowly currently.
Yeah.
I think the Dieselgate fines might be the best thing that happened to VW, because they have that same problem that every other automaker had, that they're bound to profits and they can't spend the billions to invest in charging infrastructure and new projects. But Dieselgate required them to spend that money. And so then they have a perfect excuse to go to their board with and say, we have to do this. It's this penalty. And so then they funded Electrify America and similar programs. And now they're coming out with 20 EVs over the next decade. And that is horrible as that was. It forced them to cross the Rubicon in a way that they might have not been able to do on their own. It's weird to say Dieselgate saved VW. There's an article I should
There's the title. There's the title right there. Yeah. Yeah. It's either that or Cross the Rubicon. I'm not sure. It's one of those.
Isn't that a Jeep?
Yeah. What's a Rubicon? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah. So that's the only reason I wanted to bring this up. I wanted to get his thought on this, because where are we standing right now? Like 2.5%, 3% market penetration for electric vehicles?
Right, lots of room to grow. Mazda recently said something similar, that they don't see EVs being relevant over the next decade. And I think they're just so short-sighted, because by 2025, they're going to be 20% of the market. And you're going to be missing out. If you're look at all the cars that are coming out now, the Mach-E, and what's the new Porsche Taycan. They've all got serious problems where they can't compete in range with Tesla because they aren't as efficient. They have, and they will get better. They will improve if they keep iterating on them. But they're still trying to catch up with Tesla 2012. And by doing these things now, these are the companies that are going to learn these hard lessons and improve their products. But if they just say, we'll worry about it in a decade or later, they're going to then be way behind.
Yeah, they're going to still be catching up with Tesla 2012, only it'll be 2030.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That might be a bit hyperbolic.
Now, what are their deadlines?
I have to say, Russell, that's bang on, because every one of the regular car companies that have released an EV have all had problems with efficiency, range, EPA ratings. Every one of them have had issues.
Yeah.
Now, when you say issues and problems, what you're saying is they don't match the Tesla model.
They don't even come close.
But that's not necessarily the point. Do you think Porsche wanted? Do you think Porsche designed the Taycan to be exactly what it is?
Well, they
think
benchmarked
they
it.
were
designed
definitely
it to be a race car.
They were definitely disappointed with the EPA range.
But coming out with a car and telling me, the consumer, it's going to do 300 miles, and then the EPA tests it and said, no, it's going to be 201 miles. That's ridiculous.
And then you've benchmarked it against the 2012 Model S the whole time. You see it followed all the time by a 2012 Model S.
You should have managed expectations and came out and said, you know what, the car's going to be 220 or something along that lines. Coming out and saying 300, that's like stupid.
Yeah.
That's like saying you're going to have full self-driving in 2017.
Right. They all make mistakes.
Shit.
And so you want to skin your knees early. You don't want to wait and do it later when your business depends on it.
Over-promising and under-delivering only worked when I was dating my wife, and she's still coming to terms with that.
He hears about it every day.
She loves you so much. I get it. And believe me, I'm not saying that Tesla doesn't have a lead and Tesla doesn't have an advantage. What I am saying is that I think when some of these other companies, I'm not talking about Mazda. Mazda's a little tiny company that kind of has their own little weird sort of philosophy, and bless them for that. But and they make some nice cars, but they are what they are. But when Ford wants to do something, when is forced up against the wall to do something, they never change because they want to. They only do when they're forced to, because as Mark pointed out, they're making money and they don't want to stop making that big money doing what they do, selling F-150s or whatever it is. I just don't know that. I don't know that pivot's going to be impossible, or that I don't think it's going to be a 15-year lead. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion.
It was almost a drink moment.